Our guest on This is America and the World is Ambassador Hamdullah Mohib. Ambassador Mohib is the ambassador from the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan to the United States. The ambassador formerly served as the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President of Afghanistan. He's also the founder and former chairman of the board of the Afghan Professionals Network, an organization whose community programs, among other goals, benefit special needs orphans and promote the accomplishments of Afghan women. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us 3 things we should know about Afghanistan.
It's the heart of Asia. It's prime real estate. We're rich with minerals. And it's a country that not many people know a lot about. It's very diverse, rich culture. It's unfortunate that the American people who have such a huge investment in Afghanistan only get to hear about the terrible things. But then the news media only has that much space for news, and it's not always appealing to the masses about what developments have happened. But I think it's important that Americans know what they have helped us achieve over the past 15 years.
What would surprise us?
What would surprise you?
Yeah.
There are more women in Parliament than you have in Congress.
Huh. That does surprise. Yeah. Good for you.
There are more women ministers. We have 4 cabinet ministers that are women. It's a country that has hundreds of, like I said, hundreds of judges and others that are also women. So the country has come a long way in the past 15 years. I think we made leaps of progress. That was in big part due to all the assistance that the United States provided and helped us achieve.
What are the misconceptions that we have, the misconceptions?
The one main one is people think Afghanistan is in the Middle East. I think that's the one that I keep hearing more commonly. And the other is that it's a country completely at war. What people don't realize is it is a big country, not as big as the United States, but it's a big country and things happen and people move on with life. And in some parts of the country, there are people who are busy building helicopters with instructions downloaded from the internet. There's this man who built his own electric car, a solar-powered electric car. And again, things that you hear that are done in America, in a garage or workshop, you see that happening in Afghanistan. People are doing exciting things. It's a crossroad for Central and South Asia.
Let's put a map on the screen, and we will do that. Tell us a little bit about the area and the neighboring countries.
Well, like I said, we're at the heart of Asia. We have Central Asia, that's on our north, to the north, and China, with a little connection to China. That it's a small border, relatively compared to the other countries, but we have a border with China, with Tajikistan, with Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, and then we have a big border with Iran, and then on the south and east part is Pakistan. So most people put us either in South Asia or Central Asia, but we think we are the heart of Asia.
I read something about one of the goals for the country is to become a transit hub.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, our vision is to turn Afghanistan into a place where people, ideas, and goods flow freely. That's the vision for the country to do. And we're actually holding back Central Asia, and because of they don't have any other access to the sea. They go through Afghanistan to be able to. So, and they're extremely rich in energy resources, whereas South Asia that needs a lot of that energy goes through Afghanistan. So we're talking about this pipeline, TAPI pipeline, to go through Afghanistan into Pakistan and India to transfer gas from Turkmenistan. There are Numerous regional projects currently underway. One of them is called CASA 1000. This is the Central Asia, South Asia project to transfer electricity, again, surplus electricity from Central Asian countries into Pakistan. So there is a lot of cooperation happening. We just linked up to many of our neighbors in Central Asia. A train arrived from China a couple of months ago into Afghanistan, and we're linking that up so that Afghanistan becomes the transport hub for China and Europe to go through around.
What triggered in my mind right now as you were talking is there was a reason for the Soviet invasion back in the late 70s, right? They wanted some access, didn't they?
Well, they were blocked as well. They didn't have access to what we call warm waters, and through Afghanistan they wanted to be able to have access to that through Pakistan because they feel that they were blocked on that front, couldn't move. It is in many terms appropriate to say this with the current president that Afghanistan is prime real estate. In that region, we distribute to many products within Afghanistan, and it's easy to build that distribution channel through Afghanistan into. But we are also minerally quite rich. Lithium, which is what they call the oil of the future, is abundant in Afghanistan. And this will be extremely important to America and to American trade going forward as more and more cars become electric, as solar panels are around, batteries. And there isn't a lot of lithium around, and most of what has been discovered is already taken by China. They have contracted it to themselves. That's going into China. So if you want to create businesses here in the United States, you need to have lithium coming from somewhere, and that's what is going to become our main goal in development.
So mining is very important.
Very important.
Is it iron ore as well?
There is a lot of iron. There is. Why do I forget the name of this? Copper. Sorry.
Okay. So copper, iron, lithium,
gold.
Gold as well.
We have the largest deposits that are currently discovered is of copper and lithium. But then we do have gold, oil, gas. Maybe not as large quantities as other countries, but quite substantive still.
What's the population of Afghanistan? Ballpark?
Close to 30 million.
Wow. Yeah. And the capital is Kabul?
Yes, Kabul.
We're going to take a little break and pick it up on the other side. For the folks at home, we're talking with the ambassador from Afghanistan to the United States, getting an education about the country itself and also the investment that the United States has made over many, many years. You'll be surprised at how far back the history of the United States and Afghanistan goes. Sit tight. We'll be back on the other side. This is America and the World. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. The Petroleum Group, expertise with integrity in the fields of oil and gas, exploration and production, energy, and infrastructure. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services. Ambassador, the history of the United States and Afghanistan goes back to the, 1800s?
Yes.
Way back.
Way back.
A lot of projects, a lot of help, a lot of presidents have been involved, going back to Eisenhower and Kennedy at one time, Truman at one time, Vice President Nixon. I mean, there's a history that goes back a long, long way. A lot of aid, a lot of support, and then also some involvement in in military support during the Soviet time. 9/11, that's a huge marker in the history of the relationships between the two countries. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, many people don't know the relationship. Everybody thinks that it was 9/11. Yes, it was tragedy that brought us back together. But we have common goals and shared interests. And you mentioned that we had been working together for a very long time. A lot of great projects, including in Helmand, the dam that was built by Americans. So much so that Lashkargah, the capital of Helmand, was at one point called Little America. Yeah. Our embassy here was opened in 1943. We still sit in the same building. We went through some of the archives, found some interesting pictures. We ran a whole social media campaign on the Afghan-US relationship, and we put some of those pictures up. People received it very well, and it shows that our interests were aligned then, and they will continue to be the case going forward. And as we forge our bond closer, there are much more things to work on, and as Afghanistan's economy grows, there is more purchasing from the United States. The trade grows. Our people, every year about 100 students, Afghan students, study in the United States, and this is important because let me give you the example of some of the Afghan students who studied in the United States ended up playing a huge role, including our current president. In the early 70s and 60s, when this drive started about collaboration, student interchanges, some of the people who came to the US as part of that exchange program ended up playing a huge role in bringing America and Afghanistan together and playing an important role today in rebuilding Afghanistan. So with every student that comes to the United States, they take something back. They take they forge a lot of bonds here, and we're working on trying to even connect schools so that as part of schools projects, students can learn about one another. I think for as much relations the two countries have had, we need to work on improving understanding about each other.
Tell me a little bit about, because you mentioned bin Laden, Taliban. So we understand right now. Talk a little bit about the Taliban. How many people are there? Why is it so difficult to have the government get a hold of them?
Well, sanctuaries in another country. So Taliban have sanctuaries, they have access to medical care, they have safe havens in Pakistan, and for as long as they have that and access to finances, it would be very difficult to beat them in Afghanistan. So we need cooperation.
How many are we talking about?
The numbers will grow if they, as long as they have supply of new recruits. And if they have safe havens, they will continue to have recruits. And there is a misperception about what the Taliban do and want and what they are. They may have had any reasons where they wanted revenge, perhaps, and they considered that Afghanistan was invaded and that they were liberating the country. But they've become a bandit of criminals. They're collecting taxes from small businesses. In the areas where they have some level of influence, they're treating people very harshly. That's not what the Afghan people want. And what is happening is that even if there was any sympathy for the Taliban, it is growing, reducing each day. The Asia Foundation survey, they do a survey of the Afghan people every year. This year, it showed that even at the stronghold in Kandahar, Taliban's usually stronghold in Kandahar, has also reduced from their popularity or sympathy towards them has reduced from 60% down to 20% in 1 year, because there has been civilian casualties, a lot of civilian casualties they're targeting. In the beginning, their narrative was that we are fighting foreigners, But now the Afghan troops are in control. They're in combat, and there are no more foreigners. They continue to target areas where there are no foreign troop presence. In retrospect, on the contrary, the areas where there are, for example, in Kandahar, in Jalalabad, in Kabul, in Mazar, where there are some foreign troops present still, they're relatively safer. Whereas areas where there are none, Taliban continue to target and attack people there and continue to bring destruction.
So
and havoc on
is
the
it a
Afghan
question
people.
of the country are these warlords? Are these tribes? Is it because of the geography of the country that the government can't get a grip on the whole thing?
Well, the government it continues to improve every year. Our security forces have taken full responsibility. It's the second year in a row since we have taken full responsibility for combat in Afghanistan, for bringing security to the country. So they're equipping. It's a new army. It's a new military, new security forces. It's taking them time to get all of the equipment and everything necessary to be able to continue to provide security to the Afghan security forces. People, sorry.
The United Nations had a report and with respect to say that it's a chaotic country, it's a violent country, it's a dangerous country. Is that that has to be a fair statement, huh?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that we don't have challenges. We do have challenges. It's about what we do with it. And this is why we still need support, the international support, to be able to deal with some of these issues. Taliban, there are 20 of the US designated terrorist groups that operate in the AFPAC region. They're the Taliban that provide the enabling environment. They do have criminal networks that also are taking advantage of the insecurity for their drug deals and human and weapon smuggling. So there are a large number of challenges, and our neighbors also have challenges in their own countries whose fighters are in Afghanistan. There is IMU, these are the Uzbek militants. We have Chinese militants, people who are fighting alongside the Taliban, alongside Al-Qaeda, and other groups, Daesh. We have those challenges, and we're doing what we can to prevent them from, again, creating Afghanistan into a safe haven for themselves.
There have been thousands of casualties this year and thousands of deaths. And I read recently of this bombing right in the middle of Kabul, right near the Parliament building and one of the government houses where dozens of people were killed. And I was thinking of our capital here, you know, that something like that could happen, but it does happen in Kabul, which is the capital city, huh?
Exactly the points we're trying to make. This bloodshed in Afghanistan must stop. And the source of that is the safe havens across the border. For as long as they have that and the Haqqani network is not taken seriously, this bloodshed will continue. And for us, for how long will the world watch?
Last year, they're watching? I mean,
we're fighting, but then we haven't done anything serious on Pakistan. Who has?
What would you have the United States do, or what would you have other countries do?
It's sponsoring terrorism, and if they continue to sponsor terrorism, I think they need to be designated as a state that sponsors terrorism. Sanctions and other serious actions taken to make sure that this is prevented if we continue to allow this.
This is a naive question on my part, but can the border be closed in any way, shape, or form, or is it just too impossible?
The Pakistanis bring the issue of border all the time. They think that this issue is on the border, but the heads of the Taliban are not sitting on the border. They are in major cities, in Quetta, in Karachi, in Peshawar, in Islamabad, in the capital of Pakistan. They have houses and like I said, safe havens in those cities. They plan their activities from there. They fundraise openly. All of this needs to be taken seriously, action against, there can't be good and bad Taliban or good or bad terrorists. They're all bad terrorists.
What is the expectation of the government and what is the expectation of the people for the 10,000 troops, U.S. troops that we have there now? There have been recently a couple of deaths of our troops in one of the provinces, and the Army is going to be out of Helmand, and Marines are going in there, and the General Turner, who's head of that operation, said this is not going to be a non-combative mission for these soldiers. So we've gone from support and training now to, it appears, that some active military on the part of our troops.
Well, we haven't eliminated terrorism there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And for as long as the Afghan security forces do not have some of the equipment necessary, and that we will need international support. We will, and we're thankful and grateful for the support that we have received from the United States.
But does that means fighting now? That means fighting, not just support, huh?
Well, the major brunt of the combat is being taken by the Afghan forces.
Oh yes, very definitely. Casualties and deaths, yes.
Well, I do want to address the casualties part. Dennis, our security forces, just like yours, are all voluntary. We make huge sacrifices on the part of ourselves and the world, and that should not be taken as a sign of weakness. It's a sign of our strength. That's a sign of our commitment to this war and commitment to winning the war against terrorism. Now, last year, our casualties were really high, but it didn't deter us from continuing to protect our nation, and we will not give up until the end. This is our country, and we have to bring safety, security to our people. And we will not allow terrorists to abuse us and take us back to the dark ages.
Do you have hopes? Do you have do you see someplace down the road that there's light at the end of the tunnel? I hate to use that phrase, but that's the one that came into my mind.
I think we already have the light now. We need to work on improving it. So the things that are already in place, that we're grateful for and are happy to. We have institutions, democratic institutions that are in place. A parliament may not be the best parliament at this point, but it is there, and they're holding the executive branch responsible, speaking on behalf of their people. There are government institutions, the rule of law is being improved, where our finances are growing, our economy is growing. While this is, last year, it would surprise you, despite all these dangers, there was $1.1 billion of private investment into Afghanistan that came in.
Very good, very
good. Despite all that is happening, there is a tremendous amount of hope. Dennis, we are a country that had gone from monarchy to communism, to anarchy, and then to extremism, and now to democracy. And all of that change has happened in less than 40 years. Most people who had witnessed any kind of revolution would tell you that that defined their life, and we have gone through all of that. And yet, when the first Americans and international troops arrived in Afghanistan, the Afghan people didn't cry to them about what they had gone through, what they had suffered. It was looking forward about what we can do to rebuild. Today, we do exactly the same thing. We make the sacrifices, we're committed to bringing security, and we show it with our blood every day. But at the same time, we're doing everything we can to bring back the economy and to bring security. We want what the American people have. It is safety, to be able to just sit in a studio like this and not worry. The first thing the Afghans want to be able to, I was grateful for when I was posted in Washington. You know what it was?
What's that?
Being able to walk. And not be surrounded by heavy security. And be able to walk freely like an ordinary person. People would want to be surrounded by a lot of glory and others. In Afghanistan and the Afghan people, we just want to be ordinary. And that's something you take for granted. Being able to have predictability for yourself, for your children, to be connected to the friends that you grew up with throughout your life, and be able to go home on occasions, on holidays and others, and be with your people again. We're not asking for a lot. We're asking what we are working for is the most basics of our rights.
Ambassador, we've come to the end of our time. We're lucky to have you representing Afghanistan here in the United States. I know that you have a serious mission. You've educated us beautifully, and I thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. For information about This Is America and the World, and to watch all of our programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, and look for us on Facebook and Twitter. You can now listen to all of our ambassador interviews on our new podcast, the Ambassador Series. It's available on our website and iTunes. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. The Petrolin Group, expertise with integrity in the fields of oil and gas, exploration and production, energy, and infrastructure. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services.